Hey everybody, part two of chicken pot pie making. It's lunchtime here, so I'm not making lunch, I'm making dinner over my lunch break while I'm working from home. Had two fun video conference calls earlier today. Chicken's done. Anyway, I am kind of in process right now, so I'm gonna fill you in on where I'm at. Large pot, medium heat. I melted 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I chopped up 1 medium onion. I have in here as well 1 cup of medium diced carrot, medium diced parsnip, totally optional. If you don't like parsnip, leave it out, not a big deal. As well as about 1.5 cups of medium diced potatoes and a bay leaf for flavor. I sprinkled in a large pinch of kosher salt, and I've just been sauteing this, stirring it for about 15 minutes now. I did cook it most of the way with the lid partially on like this, just to kind of coax it along, because you want the carrots and parsnips and potatoes to get a little soft. They'll cook more in this process, and then also when the pie's in the oven, but you just kind of want to let this get soft. Let's move forward. So, to this, still on medium heat. They're kind of on their way to being softened, I think, as you can see. I am adding in, I chopped up some fresh thyme. This is maybe about 2 teaspoons, teaspoon and a half, whatever you have. It's just gonna go right in. We're just gonna like stir this through, get it cooking for a little bit. If you don't have fresh thyme, it is really not a big deal. If you have dried thyme, I would add in about 1 teaspoon or so. It's just a little bit more potent than the fresh stuff. All right, next up into the party, I have 6 tablespoons of flour. So we had 6 tablespoons of butter, equal part flour. That's usually, we're making kind of like a roux thickener, and that's usually the equation. So however much fat you are using in your recipe, you kind of want to use the same amount-ish of flour in this. So we are going to, I like to sprinkle it over pretty evenly rather than just dumping right in, because you don't want lumps in this. And then I kind of just mix it in here. Now you do want to let this cook. It'll get a little thick on you and feel kind of gummy and hard to manage and starchy, and that's exactly what you want in this. But you do want to cook out some of that raw flour a little bit before you add in any of your liquid. This also helps not create lumps in the future in your sauce for this. And also, you know, raw flour is not great to eat. It should be cooked. Anyway, all it needs at this heat, I'm just gonna bump it up a little bit. It should only need about a minute or two. While that cooks, I wanna talk to you about the chicken that I just pulled out of the oven. Actually, I have this cute little toaster oven that Kent got me for Christmas a couple years ago. It was the best Christmas gift ever because it doesn't make your apartment hot when you're baking or cooking. Anyway, 2 very large, it's not really hot anymore, 2 very large chicken breasts. All I did was pat them dry with paper towel, just to get any of that gloppy gook off of them. I sprayed them with olive oil. You could rub them, you can brush them with olive oil, and sprinkled them with salt. Put them in this preheated oven at 375, and they took like 40 to 45 minutes. If you have 3 medium-sized chicken breasts, that would work for this recipe too. These ones were just enormous, so I think 2 is really gonna do it for this. Anyway, after it's pretty much cooked through, not looking to get any color on them, just looking to cook this through. If they're not all the way cooked through after about 45 minutes, it's fine. They'll cook in the rest of these processes. So leave them to cool. We're gonna chop that up later, and we don't wanna burn our fingers now. All right, I think we are good on the cooking the flour. I have 3 cups of chicken stock. I did not make this. I purchased this chicken stock. If you have your own, wonderful, good for you. Throw a parade. This can go in all at once, but what you want to do after it goes in is quickly stir everything around, because you want to get all of that cooked flour and butter kind of into this liquid. Now I am going to bump up the burner a little bit to medium high, because eventually we want this to come to a boil and then reduce to a simmer, and that will thicken this party in the pot up. Should do rather quickly. So while that happens, let's season this. I like kosher salt. I am going to start by adding 1 teaspoon in here. Now, I'm using ground white pepper, only because I aesthetically don't love flecks of black pepper in things that are a little bit whiter in this. So doing about 1/4 teaspoon of ground white pepper. If you like black pepper, by all means, knock yourselves out. And then a kind of a weird ingredient. This is completely optional, but sometimes our eye is used to the store-bought pot pies that are frozen and then you bake, and the sauce on them is always kind of a more yellow color than this is going to be. So what I have is ground turmeric. This will really lend no flavor, but what it will do is give us kind of a vibrant yellow color as this cooks. I'm starting with 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, but you can put as much in as you would like. Again, it's not going to alter the flavor of this really. In fact, this is looking a little pale, so I'm going to add another 1/4 teaspoon. So we're up to 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric in here. I think that might do the trick for us. All right, it's starting to thicken up a little bit here. I'm enjoying the color of this sauce. So eventually what you want to happen is for this to come to a full boil. When it does, we don't need to boil it for long. Knock it back so it simmers a little bit, and it gets sort of like bubbly and lava-y, because when you cook it in your pie crust, what you don't want is a runny chicken stew. You want a really tight, thick chicken stew that you can eventually cut into pie slices and serve without it just running all over the place. So we will wait for that to happen. I want to direct us over here. What other vegetables, really any vegetables you put into this, are according to your taste. I'm figuring that if I'm having something as rich as a double crust chicken pot pie, that I'm going to pack this with as many vegetables because it kind of feels a little healthier. So I'm using frozen, and I think frozen in this application is perfectly fine. It's sure is easier. But anyway, I have a cup of frozen peas, a cup of frozen corn, and then 1/2 cup of these cut green beans. Like, if you're using green beans, if you like them, I think they're good in this. Use the smaller ones, because otherwise long green beans get a little crazy when you're trying to eat it. Let's give this a stir. I think we're doing good things over here. I'm going to knock back the heat a little bit because we came up to a boil. I think you can see now that we're starting to get into more of like a gravy consistency, which is wonderful. These are straight out of the freezer. They've been sitting out for a couple minutes, but this is going to drop the temperature of your stew, but it's totally fine. Just wait for it to come back up to a boil after you add in your vegetables. I'm also gonna make this a little creamier with some heavy cream. Up to you how much you're gonna add. I would say 2 tablespoons worth is probably fine. You know, coronavirus, if you feel like you want some more cream, add some more cream. It's your lockdown. It's your pandemic. Do whatever you want. I'm gonna stir this through. Wait for this to come up again to a boil, to a simmer. You can see now it's like when I drag my spoon through here, you can kind of see the bottom of the pan. That's what you want. It will continue to thicken. That is doing good things. The final thing I'm gonna add ingredient-wise is fresh chopped parsley. If you don't have it, by all means, don't not make this for yourself if you don't have it. But I think it looks pretty in the final product. So I chopped whatever I had on hand. I'm starting, I think, with maybe like a 1/4 cup, and we'll see how things look at the end of the day in this. So just stir that through. Okay. I'm gonna let this cook a little longer, come up to a simmer again until it gets really, really tight. So when I drag the spoon through it, it's like, there's no like soupy portion of this. I am also, once this gets a little cooler, I'm going to cube up my chicken breasts and I will put that in there as well. Again, it doesn't need to cook at all in this process. You can just dump it in. Now, once you are happy with your consistency of this stew, your chicken's in there, you've tasted it for seasoning, by all means, I'm gonna do that. I can add more salt if I want. Then take this off the heat and let it cool at least to room temperature. You could also let it cool to room temperature, refrigerate it if you would like. What you don't want to do is put your hot stew into your unbaked crust, because that is no bueno. Don't do it, it'll ruin your crust. So this must be at least at room temperature, if not colder, when you go to actually assemble your pie. So speaking of, I gotta get back to work. I should probably maybe eat something for lunch rather than just cooking, but I'll be back later tonight and we'll put this all together and bake it. Thanks.